in his introduction of me the other night, that the only way we could get arrested was to do songs that no one else did, because basically we couldn't do Roll Over Beethoven because the Beatles did that, and they did it really well. And if we worked for about 5 years, we wouldn't be able to wouldn't be as good as them at that. So we went looking for odd songs like Henry VIII, and we used to do Leaning on a Lamppost, and Mrs. Brown, You Got a Lovely Daughter, and we used to do My Boy Lollipop, because none of those guys would have a go at My Boy Lollipop, because they
For good reason.
you singing My Boy Lollipop? And Bob Wooler would say, so for some reason, I was the youngest, I was about 14, but I was kind of running the band, the financial part of the band, which stopped me from being one of those child stars anyway, because if you're a child star, you usually got somebody books all your stuff and says, it's time for you to go to the bathroom and all that stuff. So I didn't have any of that. I was like, sometimes I was the driver of the van because everybody else was too drunk. I couldn't even buy a drink. So I managed this thing, and you go to Bob Wooler, who was the boss of the Cavern, and there was this Bob Wooler and this other guy, I can't remember the names now, and I'd say, can we have, he said, how much were you getting? I said, £30. You know, I'd make it up. I think he said, I'm only going to give you 20. I go, why? He said, well, people were dancing. I said, of course people were dancing. He said, well, if people are dancing, I just need to play a bloody record. What do I need you for? So all those bands from the Cavern at the time had to become entertainers. You couldn't just be a jukebox band. Even though you got all these songs that you need, everybody did Fortune Teller, everybody did Reeling and Rocking. I mean, the Beatles did Reeling and Rocking in Hamburg. People said they did 12 shows a day. One of the shows was Reeling and Rocking. 1 o'clock came around 3 or 4 times. It's 5 o'clock and the place was packed. It'd go right back around to being 5 o'clock again before they'd finish the song. They would go round and round that clock, and just because everyone was drunk and then stoned. So anyway, we built a set list, and as always happens, in 1963-64. So in 1963 was like a watershed moment. I'm with this guy called Alan Wrigley, and he's a bass player. And he's in and out of prison, but he's a bass player. So we have him in the band, and we're practicing at my grandmother's house, and we can hear some guitar tuning up a guitar. Listen, it's really loud. So we cross this field, and sounds like a movie, doesn't it? We cross this field, and we go through a thing, we go across another thing, and there in the middle of the fields is the Beatles setting up on a stage, and they're practicing, and he goes, and 1, 2, 3. So it was obviously a sound check, but we didn't know that they didn't need to practice 1, 2, 3. So we're watching this guy, and they start to play. They start to play, you know, they go, you know what? And this guy with me goes, we're fucked. I'm sorry to swear, but that's exactly what happened. He quit the band. So
he's an architect.
He's an actual. They went back to jail. He's watching, and Paul McCartney comes up. The bass players couldn't sing. No one had ever seen a bass player who sung before. It was a singer, and there were lads behind. And until then, it was like John Lennon and these men with him, you know, who were all very good. He was the lead singer, completely lead singer, and no one else. They were all going, yeah, 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 boy, you know. They weren't lead singers at all. Paul McCartney was definitely the bass player, and a very, very good bass player. But suddenly he comes, there were bells on it. I almost quit. So it all starts like that. We're talking about the beginning. So it was such a mind-blowing experience, because we'd seen all the Gene Pitneys and the Jackie Wilsons and the Roy Orbisons. Everybody who'd bothered to tour England, we'd been to see them. But here was this fully compact package of You know, there were no trombones, no girl singers, no fluff all around it. But they captured everybody's attention, and they got it all in a little van.
See, you couldn't quit the band because you had My Boy Lollipop in your back pocket.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
I don't think it was out yet, but that's okay. So that was it. And then we created our own little. We went to look for a name that didn't make us sound like we wanted to be teen idols. We thought, let's call ourselves Hubert and this guy. We ended up with the name Herman and the Hermits because we thought no girls will ever scream Herman. We truly believed that. And because we were afraid to be like Billy Fury and end up with that, we didn't want any of that. Because somebody did that really much better than us. Billy Fury, Conway Twitty, all had that good. So we chose to be like kind of a little bit sissy. Likeable, young girls would like us, and a lot of this. And bit by bit we created a following. It started with Margaret, who would sit on the front of the stage at every show at the cabin like this. She would always be there like All I know is her name was Margaret. I know nothing about her. I hope she's still alive, but poor girl. And we started with Margaret, and then there was some other girls came, and bit by bit people stopped not looking at the band. When you first start, some people are just disinterested, Bit by bit, we had more and more people looking, and we put a show together, and we had a load of songs, and we got a set list, and then we were the only band in the neighborhood who didn't have a record deal. So when they send those scouts, you got Freddie the Dreamers, Wayne Fontana, the Mersey Beats, the Undertakers, they've all got records that are absolutely phenomenal bands. And I know all the people in all the bands, and the Mojos was this fantastic band, a little bit like your band, by the way. They played sort of more soulful, the Mojos anyway. Everything's alright, everything's alright. Just a fantastic record. It wasn't a hit. What's going on? So we come along with this guy called Micky Most, comes down to, we were playing in the Beachcomber in Bolton. We played there every week, it was like a place where we went. And we said, there's this famous producer coming down, so when we go on stage, we want you all to scream and make a fuss over us. Because that never works, because they scream in all the wrong places. When it's set up, you think you're going to scream, and they go, So we're dying on this thing, but so he comes and he says the magic words, I'd like to sign the boy, not the band. And I go, that's it, he can't produce us. So I said, well, let us come down and do an audition. Because these boys in my band have given up their careers to be in my band. So I'm not I don't care if I never have a hit, I'm not gonna dump them. So we go in the studio, and we record this track, and he says, you, come in here. He says, listen to this. So he solos the drum track. I said, you can't have a record with him on it. I said, so what we're gonna do? He said, well, how about you get another drummer? Keep this one and keep this one. That guitar player isn't a very good guitar player. Let him play the bass, as if the bass is easier than the guitar, right? So suddenly we switch in all the people that are, and we're breaking hearts, man. I mean, breaking hearts. People who, I say, you can't be in the band anymore because, well, why not? Well, because there's a requirement on a recording is to be able to play in time, and we didn't know. We didn't know that you couldn't play in time. Maybe, I once said to Charlie Watts, when you recorded Come On, why did you play it so fast? You didn't do it fast like that on stage. He said, we were probably frightened.
Well, we've blown through an hour. I can't believe it, but before we
let's stay a bit longer. We got nothing else to do.
I want to know.
Go one more time through here. I'd like to hear the rest of their stories.
Just want to hear your sentence of what is the biggest moment in your career once you were on that roller coaster. Start with Mark.
When Ed Sullivan poked his head in the dressing room and said, "You boys okay?" And he was worried because the Jim Morrison and the guys had been on a couple weeks before, and you know what happened with
Fire, right?
Yeah, so he said, "You're gonna be okay, right?" And I'm like, "No dirty lyrics." We went, "Yeah," but it was Ed Sullivan, and you know, Ed Sullivan. When you were on Sullivan, you had made it. So.
Awesome. Well deserved. Micky, your biggest memory once the Monkees hit?
No, my biggest memory was learning to ride an elephant. That was a lot harder.
Back to Circus Boy.
Yeah. Oh boy, there were so many. The first time I kind of acknowledged or realized what was happening, we were in LA, and back then there was no TMZ, there was no fans really, or they didn't know how to find you. You were just, and we were sequestered on the set 10, 12 hours a day. Then I'd go in the studio at night, record, go home, sleep, get up, go to the studio, film the show. And when the show went on the air in September of '66, we were in the studio every day, and I didn't know that the record was on the charts, like I told you. But there was no indication locally about any of that national success, because we were in, like I said, we were, incommunicado, basically. But that Christmas of '66, we got a hiatus for like a week between filming episodes. And I was going to drive up to San Jose with in my car, where my family lived at the time, with the presents, my Christmas presents for everybody. And got my car and my list, and I went down to the local mall where I'd grown up, and I'd been there and shopped there every Christmas for 20 years, or not, 15 years, with my mom and stuff. And I get out of my car and I go through the big doors, and I've got my list, and I'm heading out to buy my stuff. And all of a sudden there's a bunch of people screaming and running at me, and I thought it was a fire. So I'm holding open the door going, calm down, don't run, don't panic, and suddenly I realized they're running at me.
Wow.
And I'm like, damn. I was really pissed off because I had to leave. I had to get in my car, and I had to send my roadie out to do my Christmas shopping. And that's the first moment I went, whoa, this could be the start of something big.
Awesome. Felix, your oh wow moment. Your oh wow moment as the Rascals.
Well, people say, if you remember the '60s, you really weren't there.
You said that a lot of the Flower Power Cruise, yeah.
Yeah. Oh wow. I don't know what to say except for, I always wanted to make music, and we were making music and having hit records, and what more could you ask for? See, I really was so happy, I couldn't believe it.
Peter, take us out, man. Close it out.
My favorite concert memory, I remember hearing my record for the first time and getting very excited on the radio, because we didn't make records to become famous. We made records that we could hear on the radio, because on the radio was all the people that we loved.
Sure.
All the big stars. So my favorite memory was a concert we did, and it was Cliff Richard and the Shadows, and the Beatles, the Stones, the Kinks, the Who, the Yardbirds, and for some reason the Beatles said, you can use our gear. And that, we knew them, but we didn't, you don't lend, nobody nowadays, nobody lends their gear to anybody now. They didn't lend their gear to the Who, but they loaned it.
Good reason.
And it was a good memory, because we had their gear, so I wasn't paying attention, and I'm in the tunnel waiting to go into Wembley, I'm in the tunnel talking to John Lennon about whatever he wanted to talk about. And I said, once I said to him, what are you boys doing in here in Abbey Road? He goes, recording. Go away, So I'm standing talking to him, and he goes, wait, isn't this one of your songs? And my band are out there playing the intro to A Must to Avoid for the 15th time. Finally getting it right, you know what I mean? So you see me, and there's a video of me, I'm standing there talking to John Lennon. And you see me running up this tunnel. And I get on stage and I go, she's a must to avoid. Brilliant, that's my favourite memory, because sometimes you win them, you know. Sometimes you fail, you fall on your ass and you hurt it. But this time I just sort of made it and came through.
Awesome, Mark Lindsay.